Hey guys, I've always had the dream to go to one of the world's best universities. And by the grace of God, in 2018, I thankfully was able to graduate from the University of Oxford with an executive MBA and a classification of a distinction. And that was a course that cost almost 100 grand. And I paid zero. I paid nothing. That is by the grace and the glory of God. Also, the course required you to do a GMAT, which is a graduate master's admission test, I think it stands for. I also did not do well. So this video I'm going to be sharing what I believe is my testimony. I am a Christian and I don't shy away from the fact that I believe that this has only happened by the grace of God. So I'll be sharing with you the journey to Oxford, how it's happened, and hopefully I haven't prepared for this, so my prayer is that the Lord will just speak through me and just be able to give me the insights that maybe someone who's listening to this might want to hear. I just pray that it just impacts someone, even if it's just one person, and you're able to just see that through my life the God that we serve is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than we can even imagine. Do stick around, do like, subscribe, comment, and yeah, I'm a bit somber today because I really just want the Lord to take the lead with this one. Yeah, I'm sure you can tell by my, I don't want to say my mood, but the fact that I just haven't planned. So I'm just gonna let it just flow. So yeah, please stick around. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This video I'm going to be sharing some insights in terms of my journey to Oxford, how a course that cost almost 100 grand I didn't pay a single penny for, and that's just the tuition fees. You know, this is excluding accommodation, food, all of that stuff, travel, etc. So yeah, where did it all start? I've always had the dream to study at one of the world's best universities. From as long as I can remember, you know, every year when you're writing down your goals, I've always written down I want to study at one of the world's best universities, and I've always written that I wanted to do an MBA. So those have been my two main goals for as long as I can remember. I think even when I left university, my undergrad, I had this as one of my main goals. The reason why it was quite important to me is because, and this is me personally, and as I said in my previous video, I had managed to get top grades in my A-levels. So in hindsight, going to a top university, Russell League or Redbrick or Oxbridge, wouldn't have been a problem if I applied to them. But I wasn't informed that someone like me, who looks like me, could go to those universities. And so the moment I left my undergraduate, and it's not through my, as I said in my previous video, I absolutely loved where I went for my undergrad, but it's always been something that I wanted to kind of just prove to myself that I could do. So given that I didn't have the opportunity for my undergrad, I always thought, let me try and get it done for my postgrad. And I remember even when I left my undergrad, I was immediately offered the chance to do was it a PhD for free or something like that? I can't remember. You can tag it on so you can continue staying at university, and I was asked by one of my lecturers if I want to continue on and do a PhD, and I would do it for free. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was going to say it wasn't my portion, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And in my mind, I always had that I wanted to go to Harvard or Oxford. I just didn't know how, because I knew these courses are expensive. I knew that it would be a challenge in terms of even getting in. I didn't think myself as being the smartest person. Every year at work, so as you know in my previous video, I've been at UBS pretty much most of my professional career. I've always, every year at UBS, you do put down your goals, your aspirations for the year. And these are also personal goals as well. So I wrote down, and they called it at the time an individual development plan. And I remember writing down that I wanted to do an MBA. And I did that so that my line management would always know that there's a time going to come soon where I'll either probably take a gap, some leave, or I will find a way to kind of do it combined with working. I was very, very focused to doing this. And always whilst working, I had this in the back of my mind. But God being so good, and I do wholeheartedly believe in Habakkuk 2 verse 2 in the Bible, which says write down the vision and make it plain. And I'd always written down this vision. I want to study at one of the world's best universities, and I want to do an MBA. You know, these have been two very clear goals. People ask me why an MBA, because nowadays, and I'll be very clear with you, nowadays how do I put this in the right way? There's a lot of negativity around people that have gone to do MBA. Even a call or presentation or webinar I did just the other day, and it was mentioned because I believe, or not necessarily I believe, but I think there is belief out there that it's saturated. MBAs have become so easy to be acquired, and there are multiple online courses now that you can do. There are work experience that you can get that probably of equal or more value than paying 100 grand to go and do an MBA. That is the belief out there. There is some truth to it. I do not disagree. I do believe there's also some benefits to going and physically sitting in the class and having a brand attached that you can't necessarily pay for. Well, you can because I kind of do. No, you get my point. But there was more to it than that for me. And so I started to do my own research and looking into, you know, what courses are out there, what courses are available for me to be able to do whilst working. And it just so happened that unfortunately Harvard did not do an MBA course that allowed you to work at the same time. And there was no way that I was in a position to be able to leave where I was, to be able to take a break and go and study. And Harvard just didn't offer, I think they only offer a full-time MBA. And so I started to do some research into Oxford. Now, I've always known to get into an MBA course, you need to do a GMAT. So as soon as I left my undergraduate course, let's say maybe 2 years into it, or 2 years after I graduated from my undergrad, I knew that I had to start preparing myself for this GMAT that I'm going to eventually have to do. Because it's inevitable. If you're going to do an MBA, you have to do a GMAT. And so I bought the books. I actually paid for online tuition. I actually had in-person tuition. I found some friends that had done MBAs. There's a guy called Kenna who, when I was living in Switzerland, he had done an MBA or LBS. I actually called him Mr. MBA. Because he was one of the very few black people I knew at the time that had gone to a top university to do an MBA. So I got utmost respect. I think he's now an executive director. Barclays or Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, one of them. I had got him to come and help me in terms of preparing for my GMAT and giving me some personal tuition. Maths is not my strong point. Quant is not my strong point. I feel like I'm more of a qualitative person. I feel like I'm more of a qualitative person. Sorry, my lisp. So quant, you know, they call it quants and poets, right? I'm more of a poet. I feel like, not in a, metaphorically speaking, numbers is not my strong point at all. And I've always struggled a little bit with numbers. Now, I'm saying this, I do remember this point. So, got all the tuition I could get, you know, bought the books. The books, GMAT books, for anyone that knows it, are expensive, and the new edition comes out like every 1 or 2 years. So you always have to keep on top of it. I remember like registering to take an exam. For one reason or another, I kept procrastinating. So at the time, as you know from my previous video, I was living in Zurich in Switzerland for quite some time. And this is where it all started and where it all happened for me. Now, I had, by the grace of God, been nominated. I don't even know who put me up for this. I actually genuinely can't remember who nominated me for this, but I got nominated for the Black British Business Award. But I was put up for the, I think, Rising Star in Financial Services Award or something like that. And at the time, this was, again, if you watch my previous video, you'll realise that I was given a project to run that was a 50 million Swiss franc project. So it's quite a substantial amount of money, especially at my age. I think at the time I was only 6 before I got promoted, and given that project to run. And I remember it fell on some ears or something like that, and I got nominated, and lo and behold, I won that award. And this award, I remember, and I'll probably insert a clip of my acceptance speech. I strategically took my manager with me. My line manager at the time was, you know, typical corporate person. Is he Italian? No, he's Greek. He's Greek. Yes, he's Greek. And I took him with me and to the awards show. This is the Black British Business Awards. I took him with me, and I remember talking about the fact that I always felt this kind of form of imposter syndrome, that me being black, young, female, that would always hold me back. I think for me, when I was announced as the finalist for this award, I went to my manager and I said, please don't tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to know my age. Didn't want anyone, seriously, and because you're up against those people, I've got all the odds against me. I'm black, I'm female, and I'm young. So I didn't want anyone to know, and he went against it, Jim, and went and told everyone. Thank you, Jim. I just want to say thank you for challenging me on behalf of the management team at UBS as well, for always inspiring me, for always pushing me to go the extra level, and encouraging me not to always see myself as 27 and woman, etc. But see myself as a competitor and see myself as someone who can genuinely fulfill and do the role. So yeah, thank you very much. And I remember we had finished the celebrations, gone back to work, and he had sent his boss a letter or an email to say Lorraine had just won this award. So on the internet, they actually done an article about me, congratulating me about this award. That then fell on the ears, or that then got seen or picked up by one of the group executive board members at UBS, and who picked it up and sent me an email to say congratulations. And then fast forward, somehow, I believe I asked him to be my mentor and just used that as an opportunity for him to be my mentor. So I had started to engage with him on a bit more frequent basis and always told him about this vision and dream I'd had to do an MBA. And I just thought to myself, something dropped to my spirit and said, use this now as an opportunity to apply. And now coming back to the fact that I really wanted to go to a top university, Harvard or Oxford, and bear in mind, one of the reasons why I didn't even look elsewhere, I mean, I could have thought about going somewhere like LBS, which is a perfectly amazing business school. I just always felt about the fact that I love my culture, I love Ghana. Ghana is my home. Even if I'm at home in the UK, I'm at home in Ghana. I don't know if you guys get that. But Ghana is my home, and I'll do all I can to always go back to Ghana on holidays, trips, even if it's a weekend, I would do it because I just love Ghana. And I just feel at home, I just feel at peace. Why did I even come to that point? I actually can't remember why I went to that point. I can't remember. Okay, yes, I remember now. So I know that in Ghana, especially, I was thinking about my family, my grandma for instance. If I went to my grandma and I told her I went to LBS, she'll probably think LBS was an illness or a disease. But if I say that I went to Oxford, they will get it straight away. And I promise you, that's probably one of the only reasons why I probably didn't go to LBS. Because I feel like Oxford has Oxford or Harvard have a unique brand that you can go anywhere in the world and anyone will know those two universities. And that was one of my missions. So, fast forward to doing research, I looked into which courses, at the time I was working, I did not want to leave work. So I was starting to look into which courses will enable me to work whilst doing my MBA program. And I realized Harvard did not have that opportunity. You either had to leave work and just go and do the course full time. And I think the course was 18 months or something like that. But I came across Oxford Business School, which did an executive MBA. And at first when I looked at it, I was like, executive? I wasn't even an executive at the time, so how on earth am I going to do a course that requires you to be an exec? And by exec, they mean someone who's got minimum 14 years experience, I think it was, or 15 years experience. At the time I had not even half that. But then somebody told me just to look into it a bit more. So the Executive MBA program is basically an MBA program, but with execs, enabling you to work at the same time, but you go into Oxford, you go onto campus a week every month, and you do an intense full week on campus, you stay there, and then you go back to your full-time job. And there's opportunities to travel, we travel the world, I'll come back to all of that. Now, that course was typically, as I said, for execs, and at the time I believe I was still an associate director, so I wasn't technically an exec. And I remember, however, I was like, something just told me go for it. It gave me the chance to still work and study. Now, what I did, I looked at the price of the course, and the course tuition fee, as I said, is around 100 grand. Go and research Oxford's Executive MBA program price, and you'll see how much it cost. And I was like, how on earth am I going to be able to do this? Would I need to remortgage my house? Would I need to go and get a loan? How on earth am I going to do this? The Holy Spirit told me, just apply. So I applied. Actually, take a step back. There was an entry requirement to do a GMAT. But, however, what they did is they gave exceptions for people that had over a certain amount of years experience. And I did not have that years of experience either. At the time of applying to Oxford, I believe I had 7 years of experience. Now, what I did, applied. I thought, let me apply. The worst that can happen is that I get in, or actually that was how I was thinking. The worst that can happen is I'll get in and I won't be able to find the money, so I'll just park it and put it on hold until I'll be able to find the money. So I thought to myself, let me apply, get in, and then come to UBS and say, I've got in, can you help me? Can you support me? Can you sponsor me? Because I thought, what's the worst that can happen? Or I thought to myself, what they would do, they couldn't say no, because if they say no, it means I'm leaving, because I would rather go and do, I was so focused on getting it done. So I thought to myself, if they say no, I'll probably leave, take the time I need to go and do the MBA, and you know what doors may open, you never know what doors may open after doing the program. So I just applied. Now the application process itself was quite intense, to say the least. I didn't apply anywhere else, I just applied Oxford. I just applied to Oxford. I did look into other universities like Cambridge, LBS as I said, but my focus was Oxford. If Harvard did not give me the option because they didn't do a course that I could do because of the fact that I'm still working, then I'm going to Oxford. So as for looking into the application process, what I started to do is leverage my LinkedIn as much as possible. I went to LinkedIn, I tried to find people that had done the course. I reached out to them and asked them if they could spend some time speaking with me, how they get in, you know, what is the kind of questions that you're going to be asked through the application process. And I thankfully got good responses back and managed to spend some time speaking to people who gave me some really, really great insights in terms of what the course is like and how to apply, what the application process is like. And even people that were able to review my application form. Now, when applying, you also had to attach your GMAT results. And I have been studying GMAT for the last 3 or 4 years at the time, and I'd never even taken the exam because I was procrastinating, one, and the fact that I was just scared because of the fact that I did not feel great or strong when it came to maths or quant stuff. And I was studying. Kid you not, there were times, evenings, I would just go home and study GMAT for 2-3 years because I knew I wanted to do an MBA, so I was so focused that I thought, let me just start preparing for the exam anyway. But it got to the time I was living in Switzerland and I was given this project, as I said, 50 million Swiss francs, and I was studying German at the time as well. And I thought to myself, I want to go here so badly, let me at least write them a letter and see if that letter can serve as some form of a waiver request to not do the GMAT. So what I did is I wrote a letter and I outlined and this was the truth, I had done a quant-based undergraduate course. I had studied information systems, which was quant heavy. You know, the statistics involved, there was some quantitative reasoning type activities, logic, I can't remember now, but there was logic stuff. So what I did is I got my transcript, and the fact that I already had all A's, straight A's from undergraduate on all of the courses relating to information systems, and the fact that information systems were quite heavy, I thought, let me attach that and let me use that as a reasoning. The GMAT is going to be testing a lot of the principles and things that I already know. So I reached out to a previous lecturer of mine. I said, hey, can you do me a reference and also confirm that our undergraduate course is very quite heavy. So I did that. And it's the truth, it's not like I lied. And I also highlighted the fact that I am currently studying German at the time, and I'm taking on a large responsibility at work. So it didn't bode well when it came to time of preparing for the GMAT. And I also explained the fact that I had quite a fast track career to date. And lo and behold, I applied and I attached that to my CV. I attached my CV and I attached my application form, and that was it. The process had kicked off. No one even asked me about my GMAT results. So I was like, yeah, okay, maybe this may work. So, part of my application form, if you're wondering, as part of my questions to other people as well when I was doing my research, I was asking what were people's motivations behind going to Oxford. It helped me to deeply think about why is it that I wanted to do an MBA. One of the main reasons for me is that growing up Ghanaian, and especially those people that are Ghanaian, one thing you would know is that naturally we are a reserved people. If you're British and you're Ghanaian, you're reserved, because compared to other cultures, we are not so out there. This is a generalization, everyone's very, very different. But me personally, I believe, comparison to maybe other cultures, being a Brit and also being Ghanaian, or rather being Ghanaian and then being a Brit, you're kind of reserved times two. As a Ghanaian, we are very respectful of our elders, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of other cultures, but we're also taught not to answer back or ask questions. If your elder tells you the sky is red, you will not challenge them. You'll accept that the sky is red. You'll think about it. They might even convince you so much that the sky is red. So you grow up, and that's an exaggeration by the way, but you grow up so much in this mentality that you don't ask questions. And I've always wanted to be able to ask the right questions. I felt that was my main area, one of my main weaknesses. That I get into a room or a meeting, and there are people always, you know those people that just any little thing they'll ask a question. And I was so annoyed by them. But I was annoyed because I wasn't able to do the same thing. I was like, why on earth are they able to even think that way? The fact that you are able to ask a question, I believe, shows that you're thinking. Even the question is a dumb question. You know the saying, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The fact that you're even able to ask that question shows that you are thinking. And I was never that kind of person. One of the reasons why I believe I've done well in my previous exams is because I've literally copy and pasted in my mind. I did not plagiarize, by the way. But whatever you see on paper, I've literally regurgitated that. I'm so glad with the way some exams are nowadays, where you also have to think about critically assessing things. And I've never really been that critical assessor where you look at both sides, but rather you take something for granted. It says it's this, so it's going to be this. And I'm a very logical person, which meant that exams, when my time, worked in my favor, because if the essay said, do this, I had done my research, revision rather, and I've done this. So literally like that to that. But I was never able to critically assess or ask questions. And that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to do my MBA, because A, I wanted to learn how to ask better questions. And remember this, because this is quite important. And secondly, I wanted a tool set to help me to fill in some of the gaps, especially given the fact that I had a fast track career. Fill in some of the gaps I hadn't learned from a management or executive perspective. I wanted to learn the full business landscape, operations. I wanted to understand accounting practices more. I wanted, and these two are probably more fundamental, I wanted to build a strong business network. And secondly, I wanted to have a good brand behind me in terms of universities. And so all of this I outlined in my application form. The essay was quite extensive. It would ask you why you want to do an MBA. It asks you rather what your strengths and weaknesses have been. It asks you what your career goals and objectives are. My strengths and weaknesses, I was very clear. I said, culturally, I have been brought up not to ask questions or answer back. And that's me. I don't know about other people who are Ghanaian to other cultures, but for me. And so I want to learn to ask better questions. That was one of my reasons. Strength-wise, I can't even remember what I put down with my strength. But weaknesses, I was very, very transparent. I think what Oxford like is you to be very vulnerable and transparent. But also with your career, be very clear on what your career aspirations and goals were. And I always was very clear that I wanted to move more towards business, and I wanted to do more things towards social impact. And these, by the grace of God, are things that I'm doing now. So, applied, and by the grace of God, I got a call for an interview. And I was like, okay, I didn't even ask them about the GMAT. I was like, they didn't even ask me anything. So, the interview came along. I went up to Oxford. I had sat down with a lady by the name of, actually let me not mention her name, but I actually prayed before this interview. And by the grace of God, I'm so thankful that I had this interviewer, because the other interviewers I heard are brutal. There are people that would ask questions about the Soviet Union, or there are people that ask questions about previous governments of a particular nation. There will be people that will ask questions or interview questions around political affiliation, or not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but just to know, understand how people are thinking. I remember someone who told me that they had gone to an interview room, and for them to try and break the ice with the interviewer, they had some Russian dolls behind them, and the interviewer asked the person to give them the history of Russian dolls. If that was me, I probably would have just walked out. I would have told you, I have no idea. Russian dolls, I just know that you open one and they have stuff in it, and they have another one in it, and they have another one. That's all I know. But there is some history behind it. But these are the typical levels of questions people were getting. So what I got was a brief. It was basically something along the lines of, why you want to do an MBA? Why Oxford? Why not another place? Why an executive MBA and not an MBA? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Talk through your CV. That was literally my questions. So God being so good, A, they did not ask me about the GMAT, and secondly, I had an amazing interviewer. So what had then happened is, I think I waited for a day or two, and they got back to me and said I got in. And I was overwhelmed, I was thankful, I was amazed that I finally achieved one of my goals, which was to get in to one of the world's best universities. And if you search in the UK, Oxford is #1. If you search the world, it is up there in the top 5. I think it's MIT, Stanford, Harvard, and Oxford, I believe. But it was, those 2 universities were my dreams, and Oxford just happened to be the one that I decided and had my mind focused on. Harvard, my sister ended up going to Harvard anyway, so our dream, or my dream, some way, shape or form, still manifested itself. Got into Oxford and then thought about, how am I going to pay for this course? In fact, I got it and they also sent me the bill for the deposit, and I was like, So I had taken my acceptance letter back to UBS and I said, I've got into Oxford. Can you please help sponsor me? And I went back to my mentor. And lo and behold, they came back and I was so happy because they said, yeah, we will sponsor you. But only 5 grand. Remember, this course is almost 100 grand. They said, they'll give me 5 grand. And I was like, and they were really happy. They were like, yeah, congratulations. Like, we're gonna sponsor you, we're gonna support you. Here's 5 grand. I was like, huh? So that was very disappointing. I was actually quite upset. And what I did is then but bear in mind, when you try and get sponsorship from your company, especially UBS, you have to write a business case. The process was actually quite extensive. I wrote a business case on why I want to do an MBA, why I believe it's beneficial to UBS, why I would like them to sponsor me. So I had to write a formal business case requesting this. And they came back with, yeah, we're going to sponsor you for 5K. I was like, no, that's not enough. So it was a lot of back and forth, and I challenged them. I said, this is how much the course costs. There's no way. And I said, if I don't get it, I'm going to probably leave because I want to do this so badly and so much. And I had one of the most amazing managers at the time who was fighting on my behalf with HR and my mentor as well. And by the grace of God, they had agreed to sponsor me. I'm being very careful of what I say in this video because there is more of a testimony than what I'm actually going to tell you, and I have to be very, very careful. But they agreed to sponsor me a substantial amount of the course. So you can work full salary, you can get your week off every month to go and study, full salary. You can get study leave on top of that, and we're going to give you money for any books or exams you need to take. You only have to stay with UBS for 1 year. And if you leave before that, then you have to pay back. Those were my conditions. I was so, so, so thankful, like overwhelmed that that had happened. And there was a lot of prayer that went into this. There was a lot of decreeing and declaring this to come through. Can you believe I actually had to stop the video because I was actually crying. I think my makeup has like messed up, but I was actually crying because God had truly answered the prayer. He truly, truly answered the prayer. So, got into Oxford, got the sponsorship I required. Oxford asked for the deposit, got UBS to pay it directly. I had about another 8 months or so worth of waiting before I start the course. So during that time, I then moved back to London. I was in Zurich till 2016, I think it was, and started the course that same year. And the course was about 2 years. The course was, we got started, prepared myself, I set up an office for myself in my house. I had everything broken up with the guy because I felt like I need to focus on my education, literally. But anyway, but he dropped me at uni, I remember. Anyway, so bad. I had started, right, so started first week, and I got into the room. I noticed immediately there were just 5 black people: myself, Taiwo, Rachel, Eric, Io. Rosina from Brazil, yes. Oluwetu as well, SA. Rosina, Brazil. Oluwetu, South Africa. Eric, Nigeria. Io, Nigeria. Taiwo, London. Rachel, US. Yes, those are us. I'm just saying this because these are the things I noticed immediately. But everyone was amazing. Well, there's more Africans because we had Hassan, Egypt. I love you, Hassan, if you're watching this, but I know you don't have time for me. I know you don't have time to even watch this video because of how successful you are. I mean, this is a Forbes front cover kind of guy. Like, multi-million-dollar real estate company in Egypt. In fact, the biggest real estate company in Egypt, he is the CEO of. You see how my voice is even trembling because to even be in a room with these kind of people is humbling. Anyway, so started Oxford first day, and we got to the Sheldonian Theatre where we had a dinner. We met the Vice Chancellor, and we had a talk from him, which was totally inspiring, and we mingled, met each other. And I remember, in fact, I was a little bit more comfortable because I remember actually visiting Oxford a few times beforehand to have dinner with previous cohorts. So I already had a feel for what it was like to have dinner at Oxford. And if anyone is looking to know how dinner is at Oxford, it's basically like Harry Potter. So the long tables that you have, and Harry Potter was shot at Oxford. So it's literally like that. Think about Harry Potter and you'll know this is what Oxford is like.
A lot of people in this room, you know that the sun does shine in Oxford. Okay.
So I remember we had our first meal, we had dinner, but I remember that day I went home and I cried. Why? Because I realised I was out of my depth. I remember getting on my knees, and at the time I was staying in the dorms of Lady Margaret's Hall, I think it was. My college is Green Templeton College, which is more a post-grad college, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with like Jesus College, New College. I should know the names of the colleges at Oxford, but I've forgotten them. Or I'm sure that Christchurch, these are the ones that everyone knows, but Green Templeton wasn't so known. It's one of the newest ones, and it's also one of the ones that's more primarily focused on postgrads like medics, etc. Now, but one of the best ones if you're doing extracurricular stuff like rowing, because I joined the rowing team whilst I was at Oxford, which was one of the most incredible experiences. And one of the reasons why I swim now, let me just talk about this story for a moment. While I was at uni, I really wanted to be part of a team, a club, a society, a sport, and rowing team, thanks to Oliver is another guy who is a ethnic minority as well. There was actually quite a few actually. At the time Oxford did pretty well, so I give them that. At the time, gender balance was about 37% women. The average age was 37, and at the time I was 28. So I was one of 3 youngest people in the class at the time. So, where am I? Sports, rowing. Rowing, you have to be able to swim 2 lengths without stopping. No, 4 lengths without stopping in a swimming pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool. You should be able to float on your back for 20 seconds. You should be able to tread water. I couldn't do any of that. I could barely swim like 5 meters. What's 5 meters in the swimming pool? Okay, anyway, I couldn't do it. I remember having one of my classmates, Mart, help me to learn. But that made me so determined that I actually started taking up swimming lessons, and by the grace of God, I can actually do those things now. So I was able to join the rowing team. We used to row at like 6 AM in the morning, and it was one of the most amazing experiences to be part of a historical, cultural, almost a cultural thing at Oxford. Going back to it. So, why did I cry when I was in my dorm? I was in Lady Margaret's Hall, I think that's what it's called, and I remember getting on my knees, literally got in one of the first nights, and I cried to God. I said, God, you've got me here, please get me through. Why? Because actually this didn't happen the first night, this happened after one of our first lectures. Why? Because that first lecture went through one area, came out the other. I had no idea what the lecturer was talking about. In fact, I was ready to walk out. I felt so out of my depth. I felt, why am I here? I felt so dumb. I felt so stupid. I felt like, you know when you're writing notes, you don't even, I stopped writing notes and started just scribbling. Because I had no idea what to write. His words didn't make sense. Sorry, I feel so angry, not angry, but I felt so, why do I feel so dumb? But the joke was, what made it feel worse is that everyone else in the class seemed to me to get it. The questions that people would ask, and it becomes very transparent about our cultural differences when you're in a room with 80 people from different countries around the world. We pretty much had every, I don't want to say major country, we pretty much had most regions in the world covered. Americans put up their hands first, they ask questions first, they answer questions first. Brits sit back, but when they ask questions, they ask it so well that you're even like, you know, there are moments where you'd be like, and even their question you don't understand. The question from the question from the lecturer, you don't understand, but then the response that the person gave you, you don't understand. The response that they gave you, you don't understand. Then, like the culture, and then the Eastern Europeans are there, and they're so intelligent and smart, and I felt at my worst. I felt like I am dumb. That is how I felt. I remember going back to my room and I was on my hands and knees crying to God and saying, God, you got me here. And I remember they gave me an assignment on the first night. It was papers, and they always used to print everything for you. This was 2016, 2017, 2018 when I graduated. And I remember even trying to read the document and I couldn't even read it. And I am dyslexic. And at that point, it made me realize how dyslexic I was. Because A, I wasn't able to absorb and the kind of form of dyslexia I have, is it dyspraxia? I don't know. But my processing speed of my short-term, see, I don't even, I'm joking. My processing speed is not up to the same level as other people. So even when lecturers are speaking, it will take me time to absorb. So by the time someone has put their hand up and answered their question, it's only when I've understood what the person is saying. That's like, for me, it takes time to absorb things, understand things, and process it. And even to read the document, it looked like, I was like, what is this? It felt like the encyclopedia. It felt like I had no idea. So I felt out of my depth, and I was like, God, you got me here. Get me through this. And I was pleading to God, no way you will leave me or forsake me, given that you brought me to this place, you got me in, and you got me, is it because I asked you gave? Or is it what you believed I actually need? Like, I was pleading with God, it's like, why? Why would you make me feel so stupid? I was one of the people that didn't answer, I don't think I answered a single question for days, because even, you know those times when you're in class and you're so nervous that when you start speaking your voice crackles and it's trembling? It was that for me every day, all day, because I didn't want to speak, because I knew, and you know those times you have to psych yourself up before you even answer, and you have your water next to you because you're trying to gulp it to make sure your nerves are subsided. That was me. Just to find out, after speaking to people, everyone felt the same. Everyone felt like, and I just probably embodied it or what's the word I just probably showed it in a different way. And everyone felt that they were weak, and the reason why is because everyone collectively was strong. Everyone was super smart. I'm in the room with some of the top people in their industries. Some of the people who are like leading PE firm in Nigeria, the leading bankers, the leading aviation specialists, the leading government officials, a vice chancellor from a university, medics, people that come to uni on a helicopter. well, no, but anyway, yeah. These are people, I'm sitting left and right with people that if you were financially, I felt I was, and maybe it's true, financially I felt like I probably was not in their league at all. And I'm just assuming here. But financially I felt like if the person next to me was able to just give some change to someone as a tip, that tip will be my entire salary. That's how I felt. Like, I felt like not only was one of the youngest, I felt like the least experienced. I felt like I wasn't the most intelligent, and I felt my dyslexia was, because I hadn't suffered, not suffered, but it wasn't heightened until that moment. I mean, through university, undergraduate, it was there, but it was never like, I was able to handle it. But at this point is where it reared its head. And it took me until the last lecture of uni to actually stand up and do a presentation about suffering from dyslexia. And I remember that day getting standing ovation from my classmates. And that was probably one of the most tear-jerking moments I've ever had. You know, it was one of those courses, one of those classes, I think the last class you have is more of a reflective class of your experience. And I remember talking about how I suffered from it and how I felt so inferior to everyone else. But anyway, going back to it, everyone has said that similarly they felt inferior to everyone else. Because these people, we're all smart, but everyone had imposter syndrome. And that's how I realized that imposter syndrome, everyone has it in one way, shape or form. No one felt they deserved to be in Oxford. No one felt like they had deserved to be where they are. And I think that's the beauty of what it was. Everyone was so humble. But I'm very certain that I was the least experienced person in that room. I'm very certain I probably was one of the financially not the same level as the people in the room. But by the grace of God, I will and I shall. And more. And I just felt so, and there's no words to articulate how I felt. I tell you, there were so many times when I went back home, I cried. I remember the times when we were at uni, we were doing Zoom calls. You guys are on Zoom calls now. We were doing that in 2016, 2017. I only got through uni, through campus, because you're already on campus for 1 week every month. You've got to still have study groups and engage with your colleagues throughout the time. Zoom was our thing. Like, Zoom was our thing. That's why everyone gets gassed right now on Zoom. I'm like, guys, we were using Zoom from like back then. I should have put shares from back then. Because we had study groups through Zoom. You know, everyone on the course from around the world. In fact, I was in the minority when it came to people that lived in the UK. There were people from South Africa, China. These people were flying in every single month. The fact that I was even struggling for fuel in my car to drive up to Oxford shows you what it means. These people were coming in from Lagos, from US, from Russia, from did we have anyone from Australia? Okay, we had an Australian, but he's from San Fran, or lives in San Fran. But people literally from across the world flying in, and there's me trying to struggle putting fuel in my car to drive to Oxford. My point being, I had one of the most humbling experiences studying the Exec MBA program. We were able to travel across the world. We had done tours where we would go to India, to America, to South Africa, to China. You know, we've been around the world with the course. Now, bear in mind, the tuition fee that I spoke about is just the tuition fee. It doesn't include your flights, your accommodation, your travel, your food. The food on campus was free for lunch, breakfast and lunch. Everything else you are paying for. I had to fund that myself, not UBS, myself. Your travel, and you know when you're traveling with these people, these big people, you too, you want to be big. So me too, I was trying to fly business class, but I'm only telling you guys now, I didn't actually have them, like, I was struggling to pay to get my business class ticket. Why? Because I felt like I want to be in the league of these people. I can't believe I'm telling you guys that. But anyway, I'm trying to be real, and I said God lead the way. But yeah, no, Oxford was one of the most humbling experiences of my life. Met some of the most amazing people, studied some of the most amazing places, met some of the most amazing people, Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, to people that came and spoke to us, co-founder of Twitter, I can't remember his name, sorry. But so many different people, because of the fact that we went to Oxford or Saïd Business School, you had access to, what do they call it, where they go and do the speeches? I should really know all of this stuff. The Oxford, not Oxford Forum. Someone remind me, I'll probably remember it and I'll put I should know this. I should really know this. But anyway, it was some of the most amazing experiences. Initially, we did Airbnbs with two of my amazing people who I call my homies, and they know who they are. And I'm sure they're probably not watching the video because they're some of the most amazing people and they have busier lives than I do. I've had study groups and classes. It's just been fun. It's been jokes. And the good thing about these people is I know I can go anywhere in the world, any region in the world, and I'll have a place to stay. Why? Because I know people now from across the world. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Oxford, to study with a global network, to have a strong network. I've been to Boston, and I was able to stay at the riverside of my friend's beach house. I went to DC and my friend picked me up. I went to, Washington DC. I went to, there's people everywhere in the world. So you never feel alone because you know you can call upon this network, and they are a strong network to this day. And one of the best things for me I experienced was, one of the best experiences at Oxford was learning about courses that you know about, but you're unable to get into the depths and the roots of. The debates that we had in class, I learned more from my classmates than I learned from the lecturers. The lecturers were there to kick off a discussion. The discussion was then picked up, debated and handled by your colleagues and your classmates and your cohort. And I learned more from them than I learned from the lecturers. I loved our monthly dinners in halls, in colleges. So every month we'll go to a new college and we'll have dinner. And as I said, this is Harry Potter, you would dress up. I remember matriculation where you dress up in your black gown and things like that. And I remember going back to work every time after the week of immersive learning and just feeling depressed. During that 2 years I was studying, my performance at work was so bad. Despite the fact that I had sponsorship and support, I had moved roles in between. Remember, I moved back to London, so I then had to have a new role. And I felt it was one of my lowest points at work. You're on a high with your studies, but you're on a low at work. In fact, it was the time that I received the worst performance review at work. And it's ranked 1 to 5. I remember getting 2s. I had the worst performance review during the time that I was studying. And I always felt like I was bad for leaving every time. This because there was a new team that I was part of, and it was probably one of my worst experiences at work, I'm not gonna lie. I'm being very, very transparent. And I remember I felt almost penalised the way to study. So it's not all fine and dandy because my work has suffered. The fact that I was studying, and even though you're doing a week immersive course, you're still studying at home. You're still studying full time. That's my point. You still got assignments to do. You still got study groups to do. You're still meeting your lecturers. Even though you're there on campus for 1 week every month, you still got work to do. So my work performance at work was sliding, and it was one of the most challenging times of my life to try and combine both. But what I learned was ways and means and strategies, and this is a whole about me as a chief side hustler. I learned how to manage my time more effectively. I learned how to use my lunch break more effectively. I learned how to maybe do some work from home on a Friday, so the time that I'll be traveling, I can use that to study. I learned to use my 5 to 9, both sides, so I'm talking about in the morning and in the night. I learned about Red Bull, which is bad. Don't use Red Bull. But Red Bull basically got me through, and please don't use Red Bull. I became a coffee addict as well. Literally, I felt like I could not get through a day without coffee. And this is bad, I'm being very transparent with it. And I literally had to wean myself off coffee because I felt like I was burning the candle at both sides. And at one point, something had to give. First time I actually had to go and visit a psychologist. Through UBS or through work, I was stressed. And I was referred to go and see a psychologist to talk through all of this. My performance at work slipped, and it affected me emotionally. It made me disheartened. I was supported and sponsored to go and do a course, but yet I wasn't supported at work to know that I was also working and also studying. And it was stressful. But what got me through is the fact that God had got me there. And I was looking at other people and I was like, these people are wives. their husbands. They are business owners. They are multi-millionaires. How are they able to do it? Little old me, who has a job and studying, and maybe a few small businesses that are not really turning around the profits that they should have been. How am I suffering? So I thought to myself, if they're able to do it, I can do it. So I picked myself up and remind myself, I can do all things through Christ. That way strengthens me. But yeah, by the grace of God, got towards the end of the course. One of the best things about the course is that they give you the chance to do an entrepreneurship project. So you come up with a business idea, you find classmates and colleagues who are able to support you with it. And Voxter was born on campus at Oxford. Voxter, and I'll talk about that in a separate video. Voxter is essentially an app that we're pivoting at the moment. So we are going through a pivoting phase, and I will talk about that in another video. But it's an app that discovers musical talents through the power of social media. And I remember something Reid Hoffman said, if you're not embarrassed by your first version, you have released it late. I'm embarrassed by my first version of Voxter. However, we are still on it, we are pressing on. We actually raised a pre-seed round from our classmates, 6-figure sum, as the first investment. And I think that's only because of the reputation and the support network that you had from our classmates. And I'm so ever thankful to every single one who supported and sponsored us. And I will do a separate video on Voxter. My co-founders on the course, Oliver, Berlin and Carlos, they are the people that to this day, we are still working on Voxter. But we are looking for a CTO. We are looking for some UX UI designers. So if anyone sees this video, knows any CTOs, wants to come on board as a shareholder, as an equity partner, please come on board. Please message me because I am looking for one. We have pitched so many times, but the only thing we have holding us back is the CTO thing. So please do get in touch, because that is one thing. If we have that level sorted out, we will blow. This company will just blow. So yeah, that is something, again, as I said, I'll speak about in another video. So Oxford helped me to find those people. I ended up, by the grace of God, graduating with a distinction. I remember, and again, thankfully by the grace of God, pretty much getting straight A's or however, no, what did I get? I can't remember how it is. Is it pass, distinction, fail? I can't remember, but everything was good. But I could not have got through the course without the colleagues, my classmates. People were available for Zoom. I've never met some selfless individuals in my life. People that, as I said, the caliber of the people that you meet, you can't meet them every day. But these people will sit down and explain to me how to do accounting practices. They will sit down to me and help me how to work out a financial model. They will sit down and help me to work out WACC, go and Google WACC, W-A-C-C. They will help me when it comes to marketing strategies. Like, we learned about operations, we learned about accounting, corporate finance, we learned about business in Africa. I remember us going to South Africa and we met, what's that company, the Kenyan company that was blowing now when it comes to mobile transactions? Oh, I can't remember the name, but we met the CEO. We did so much. Like, it was incredible, incredible. And these people are world class. When I talk about me feeling inferior, these people are world class. I'm literally here and these people are like, you can't even see my hand. Why? Because they're off the chart. And I have the utmost respect from every single person that I studied with. I have the most amazing mentors now. I'll say, let's rank in order of the things I gained. The brand of Oxford, number 1, the network. Absolutely hands down the best thing I've experienced. Number 2, the brand. Number 3, I'm now able to answer questions. I'm now able to ask questions. And I will talk about this, but testimony, remember I said one of the things that I wanted to gain from this is ability to ask questions. The fact that I'm able to ask the right questions, that by the grace of God, I was able to land the role as head of sales at Growth for Me Africa, which is the agri-tech company that I'm working with. It's only because I started pestering them with questions that they started noticing me. And I was a customer first and foremost of this company. Why? Because I had learned the way to ask questions. And I believe when you ask and you learn to ask questions is when you can show someone you're thinking and you're able to actually do the work yourself and think through things. So network, brand, ability to ask questions. I have more clarity in terms of the direction I want to go in terms of my life. And I have more ambitious. I'm not a kind of person that I'm inspired by celebrities. You can ask me now, and people always ask me, who are you inspired by? Like, which famous person are you inspired by? Yes, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all those people, yes, they're out there. Beyonce, whoever you want to go in. But the people that I had in my class are they're the aspiration. Their aspirational level, their goals. Not only because they are wealth builders, but they also they have a social ethos and they have a social mission. People on the course that were working with global citizens, people on the course that are doing things with cancer, people on the course that were working with Bill Gates, people on the course that are doing things to change their lives and impact people. And those are the people that inspire me. I'm not saying other people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, etc. Of course they're impacting us because I received this ring light through Amazon. But I'm talking about social benefits and social impact. And that, again, is one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Oxford. So, I believe that's most of the story. By the grace of God, I graduated without Oxford coming back, and I didn't get any question about the GMAT, money, nothing. Everything was done. God had done everything. And if you want to find out more, because there's more to this testimony that I just can't share on the video, please reach out to me, because it's a story. It's God. It's only God. And it's only taken me till post-graduation for me to be able to even share this. But the biggest thing for me is that even though you feel inferior, God has put you there for a reason. And I'm now doing things and in a place that I feel like I can get to very quickly, the next step in my life, because of the doors that can be opened through Oxford. I can reach out to people on LinkedIn, and if they went to Oxford, I'll reach out to you and say, can we keep connect, can we meet up? And they will say yes, because of the fact that we have this network. So, that's me. I will share some more insights in terms of some of the various side hustles that I've mentioned through this video. I am more than happy to answer any questions. If anyone's looking to get into an executive MBA program, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to walk you through or review your application form, walk you through what the interview process. I've told you what the interview process was for me. There was nothing more, nothing less than that. I have had the most amazing experiences post going to Oxford. And I'm not just speaking about it because right now it is quite accessible to go there. I'm not going to lie. People can go there. Anyone can go there if you want to. Anyone can go there if you really, really want to, you can go there. For me, it was what I gained from it. It was the shift. And I said, one of the main things for me is to get the tool set, be able to speak the language of corporates. I wanted to be able to speak the language. That was one main thing for me as well. And questions. You don't understand the power of questions. I used to be the person that will sit in a room in a meeting and never ask anything, never answer anything, just sit there quietly. But now I'm the person that will let you finish speaking, sit back, think through things, and then ask a question, and that question will hit you. And that's the person I am. I'm not the first person to ask a question, I'm not the first person to answer a question. I'm more of a thinker. When people see me quiet, and people see me not doing much, it's because I'm thinking. I'm a thinker. I think a lot. And then I'll ask questions. Maybe that's got me in trouble with some of the people I've been seeing. But yeah, maybe it has. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, comment, share, and hopefully see you next time. Thanks, guys. I was in. It's a miracle that I'm here and it's raining and we've graduated.